What's up, guys? How's it going? It is Matt here. So we're going to be talking about a discussion that is kind of goes all over the place in gun channels and stuff like that, and it's something I see a lot in the comments. So the question I have for you is, if it's old, does that make it obsolete? Let's get into it. Now, I don't know how many times in my videos where I hear people always talking about how guns like these are completely old, they're archaic, they're completely obsolete, and you're an idiot if you carry something like this. So this big old revolver and this big old semi-automatic, you're an idiot because these are old and they're obsolete, and you need to stick with a 21st century gun that works better, and they beat these guns all the time, and this is a piece of crap that costs too much, and this is a piece of crap that doesn't have enough ammunition in it. I don't know how many times I've heard that all the time. I hear it a lot. I hear it a lot. Now, most people will say that you need a modern day gun like this because, after all, this is the 21st century, and 21st century guns beat out old guns all the time. And this right here would be a 21st century modern day gun. That's what they say all the time in the comments. I want to address that real quick because this might blow your mind a little bit, right? It might blow your mind just a little bit. So, 1911s. 1911s is a great gun. It's a good shooter, good way to go. This is a Rock Island Armory 1911. Rock Island Armory M1911A1FS, okay? This was just short of $700. Just short of $700. This guy comes with all the bells and whistles. Has all the bells and whistles, the extended beaver tail, ambidextrous safeties. I changed out the sights and I changed out the full-length guide rod to a GI guide rod. It also has these beautiful, I believe they're VZ grip, G10 grips. They have these great grips. This is a good feeling gun. It's a very good shooting gun. I've had minimal to no malfunctions with this. The only time I've had malfunctions was in the break-in period when I was using Kimmer magazines, pretty much. Now, a lot of people will say a gun like this, because it's too heavy, too big, too bulky, and it uses 45 ACP. It is a horrible gun. It is an old system, and you should just throw it in the safe or throw it out because it just does not work. Because a 21st century gun like a lightweight striker fire pistol, once again they say the 21st century gun is the way to go with these jacketed hollow point 9mm, which is also a modern day cartridge according to all these videos, because you need a modern day gun, modern day cartridge, because that beats out all the old guns. Now, this right here, Revolver, I want to tell you something about this. This right here, this type of model would be called the original Glock. The original Glock, right? Why is that? Because you point it and you pull the trigger. That's what makes it the original Glock. You point it, you pull the trigger. Then Glock came out in the 1980s, keep that in mind, the 1980s, and they developed a Glock 17, which is the full-size model. The Glock 17, they developed the Glock 17, which basically took over the market, and people were like, they kind of held their nose and they shot it and they fell in love with guns. Once again, this is the 1980s, okay? These guns right here, Revolvers, okay? Now this is a modern day revolver, I guess you could say, modern day model, not really a modern day revolver. Modern day revolvers, you realize that revolvers have been pretty much the firearm on the side of people in America for the last decade, for a very, very long time, over almost 2 decades. A revolver has been the primary go-to for most Americans. Most people that have guns, it's been a revolver. More people defend themselves with a revolver in their entire life, whether it's law enforcement, military, overseas, whatever it was. More people are defending themselves with one of these than they have with a modern day 21st century gun like this, right? More people are defending themselves with these, because whereas this has been around for a couple hundred years, these guys has only been around for a little over 30 years. This, by the way, all the people that say Glock beats out, it's one of the comments I get all the time, Glock beats out a 1911 or something any day because it's a modern day gun, and why the heck would you use a 20th century gun when you're in the 21st century? Well, this was developed in the 1980s, which makes this that's right, a 20th century gun. So this guy isn't really a 21st century gun like all you guys think it is. It ain't that modern, right? A Glock's been around for a long time. It's a very dependable gun. It's been around for a very, very long time. Before that, when semi-automatics came out, this was the go-to, right? The 1911 or the High Point were the ones, that were go-to. Not the High Point, the high-powered High Point. I keep seeing the High Point yeet thing comes out of the yeet cannons, but the actual the Browning high power and 1911s were the go-to pistols forever, because these were the original semi-automatic guns, single-action semi-automatic guns. These were the go-tos for a very, very long time. And once again, this has been around over a decade. All right, this was developed in 1910. Okay, it came into service in 1911, World War I, World War II, all the way up to the time when I was in the service back in the early thousands, when there's still special operations guys carrying these. Today, still there's some guys that choose to carry these over that. A lot of people like these guns because they have such a long history with this. This 20th century gun has a long, long history. Now, the complaints that everyone says about these is it's too old, it doesn't work, and it's ridiculous, and it carries a stupid old cartridge that's too big and heavy to get anything done. Which is, once again, the philosophy is it's old, so it doesn't work, all right? Or it's old, so it's archaic, and it doesn't work. So you're telling me if someone with trained hands who has been shooting these for a long time points it and shoots it and pulls the trigger, that it ain't gonna work, that the bolt's flying down, it's because it's old, it's not gonna work compared to like a modern day cartridge, like a 9mm. There's another one here, and like a modern day cartridge like a 9mm. The old 45 won't get the job done. 45 ACP, 9mm. Modern day cartridge, modern day cartridge. This is old. However, this came about World War I, World War II, all that stuff there is using that. Well, guess when this round came out? You know how many Nazis carried a 9mm Luger cartridge? And you're telling me that a 9mm is a modern day cartridge. Once again, a 9mm is a 20th century cartridge, not a 21st century cartridge. Yet all these people tell you that you can't have an old gun like this because it's the 21st century, and you can't have an old cartridge like this because it's the 21st century. Or 21st century cartridge is like the 9mm with a Glock platform, whereas both of these are still 20th century, all right? 20th century models, designs. Glocks, 9mm, 45, they were developed in the 20th century. 40 caliber, modern day cartridges, everyone calls them modern day cartridges, they were developed in the 20th century, all right? They ain't that new, all right? They aren't that new. But a lot of people say because you use it in an old gun, that it makes it an ineffective cartridge, and it's ridiculous, and why the heck would you even think about using it? Now I want to cover one other thing when it comes to this too. Once again, here are the rounds. 9mm, 45 ACP. Big difference. This is a big heavy round, so it goes pretty fast for a big bullet. It's still slower than something like this, but it goes pretty fast for a big bullet. Double the weight of this, okay? This is double the weight of this guy. This is double the weight of this. And you can just take a look by doing something like that. This is double the weight of this, okay? Makes it a heavier bullet, which means it's a heavier cartridge. Now, they will always tell you that you cannot use an old bullet, all right? An old bullet, a 20th century bullet, because it's the 21st century and you need a modern day cartridge. So we take these, I guess we got to get rid of these training rounds. Although, believe it or not, more people, I don't even know how many people were shot by one of these back in World War I, World War II. Ever heard of a Thompson machine gun, 1911s, the revolvers, they were using that. 45 ACP has been fighting wars since World War I. Since the 45 ACP came out, this immediately went into service and has been used in service all through the entire United States of America history, all right, when it comes to modern day history, if you want to start from World War I and above. This right here has stopped more Germans, it's stopped more bad guys, more Japanese, more enemies of America. These little cartridges right here have gotten the job done very well, and they've gotten the job done very good. But because it's old, according to you guys, this is an ineffective cartridge that doesn't get the job done. So we're gonna do a comparison here. So we'll use a modern day bullet. Here you go, a 9mm modern day bullet, 9mm bullet, which is not modern day at all. Hence was in the holsters of Germans for a long time during World War II. Right here, modern day cartridge. By far, this is a better, more effective cartridge than a modern day cartridge, because after all, they don't take the same technology and put it in the different cartridges, right? Now, at the end of the day, when it comes to this, is yes, this is a little bit faster than this guy. This, depending on the cartridge, this is 180 grain. This one's all right, but you get to 230 grains, it may not fully open up when it comes to a jacketed hollow point, when it comes to actually doing it. Well, these, with the speed, they'll pretty much open it up. But however, more people that have been shot like this have actually survived. However, if you take this right here and you swap it out for this right here, this alone has more penetration than this. And this, the second the round actually starts hitting something, starts flipping and getting in the inside, most energy is released. Will it punch through something? Absolutely, it will punch through thing. But in order to get the same amount of power that you can get from something like this when you're shooting it, you need to use this type of round in order to compete to something like this. Because this, as archaic as some people may see, is still part of physics, if you want to look at it that way. There's still this whole thing physics with it's a very heavy round traveling at a very fast speed, so you need the same amount of force in order to stop it. This one, at the end of the day, I don't care how old you think this is, if this thing is ever shot at you, just because it's old doesn't mean it's not going to put you in the morgue, right? This cartridge right here has been around for a long time and it works very well. Now, going back to the original Glock, right? The original Glocks, the revolvers, the point and shoot guns. Going back to this right here, by far is even more archaic than a 1911 because it's a revolver. It doesn't have enough rounds. It doesn't matter if this one holds 7 cartridges of hot 357 Magnum, all right? This is an old cartridge and it doesn't work. However, you need a modern day cartridge like this, okay? Modern day cartridge, because after all, this is a 21st century cartridge, even though it's been around not as long as these, but as long, it's been around since World War II, right? If not, I don't know the exact date of it, but it's been around for a long time. Now these guys right here, these are 357 Magnums. What's the difference between this and these? It's a modern day technology that's put into an old cartridge. However, at the end of the day, when this guy is shot off, this guy doesn't even stand a chance when it comes to the physics aspects of it. This thing is traveling so fast that when it hits, you're talking double the force as something like this, if not triple, depending on the load you carry. So a lot of people call this 357 Magnum, this little 357 Magnum, ineffective and old because it's old. It's not effective because it's old. If you were getting charged by a black bear, would you rather have this or would you rather have something like this? Okay. Now, the actual cartridge size is pretty much the same exact thing. The only difference is this thing is such a high pressure, fast paced round that there's not much that can hold it back. It pretty much punches through just about anything, where this will fall short every single time because it's too light. With the speed that's put behind this thing will punch through just about anything that you need to punch through. So, but they're telling me that because this is an old cartridge with modern day technology, old cartridge, all right, this obviously is an old, this 9mm round obviously is an old, doesn't matter, it's been around for a decade. This is too old to be used to defense because it's old and it's archaic and it's stupid if you ever to use something like this. So I just want to throw that out there because I hear it a lot when it comes to the channel. I want to give a little bit of a history lesson. Just because it's old or developed a long time ago doesn't mean that it doesn't work. And most older stuff that was developed a long time ago is still used today in modern day firearms. And this right here, what most people would consider a modern day firearm, ain't that modern. It really ain't that modern. If you want to look at a 21st century gun, you're going to look at a HK VP9 or PPQ or something like that. That would be considered more of a modern day 21st century gun because those were developed in the 21st century, where this was only developed in the 20th century. Now this is a damn good gun. It works well. It's very easy to shoot, very accurate to shoot. Does that make this a bad gun? Does it? Even though this is very easy to shoot, very accurate to shoot. So if you have the right hands on a gun, it's pretty damn effective, right? So for all the people that are out there constantly complaining that you're an idiot if you carry a bigger, older gun with an older cartridge or something like that, you need a 21st century gun. I hope this helps you understand a few things when it comes to the firearms and firearms history, all right? Most guns, even like this guy right here, most of the technology that's put into this gun came from this gun. That's right. Anyway, guys, if you like this video, like, share, subscribe. Remember, guys, it is our responsibility to take care of each other and protect each other. And remember, just because it's old, it doesn't mean it don't work. Peace.